This conference will now be recorded.
I think Shah Ahmed joined, then again he went to offline. So check once, and
He joined but disconnected.
he went
I don't
offline.
know.
Yes, Banu
Yeah,
also. Banu not joined actually.
yeah, I'm checking. Give me 2 minutes.
Sure, I'll be on mute.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just reconnected.
Yeah, so Banu not available. Shah?
Uh, just checking with him. Give me 2 more minutes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start. Banu will be joining in a while.
Okay, sure. So fine. Let me open the command prompt. Okay. So just first go through what we covered in the last sessions. So first session, we mostly discussed based on the content. So in this actually, if you observe here, so we completed basics. So which is Groovy basics. We understood. So how to write Groovy script and Windows environment, and then we discussed more about all the Groovy basic things here. So we understood like what is the extension for Groovy script and how to execute the script, what is interpreter name. So this all we discussed here, and then comments, single line comment, multi-line comment. So single line comment we discussed 2 forward slashes. Multi-line comment we discussed like forward slash star like that. And then we understood, the differences between script mode and interactive mode. And also we discussed that every time we use script mode, but interactive mode just for what? Whenever if you want to verify something. For example, I want to test whether this function is exist or not. Simply you can go to the interactive mode and then we can run it. And also we discussed one-liner. And then later we started variables. So if you observe here in the variables, so the variables basically more important any language. So especially in Groovy, this is more important concept. So we should know based on the type. For example, if I'm defining a integer value, how to define that? Float value, how to define? String value, how to define? List, how to define? Dictionary, how to define? So there are different types of variables, but we only discussed the basic type in the session 2. That means what is variable and then how to define that variable. So only that part we understood, and then also we discussed that numbers concept. So integer and float value is nothing but big decimal, and then we understood that how to define, right? And then later we saw some examples based on that, and also we understood basic type of the static data type and also dynamic data type. And then we discussed some of the way how to define the variables, the different ways, like programming style how we define and Groovy style how we define. And then get class we discussed. Using with the get class we can get the type of the variable. And then interpolation concept we discussed. So interpolation is nothing but what? Getting the variable substitution, but in Groovy we should use dollar symbol. That's what we discussed. Okay, just a minute. Okay. And then we discussed what is typecasting. So how to convert the data type. These concepts, especially to verify the data type. So every session we will actually repeat this. So for example, if I define a variable, how to get that variable type. So you should know these all the things. Okay, you should remember it. And also how to convert the data type, which is typecasting concept, int to string, string to int, some other variable to variable. So we discussed as we are using. And then we started operators. And also we discussed how to take input from the keyboard system.console.readline. And then with that, actually we understood every time it is taking as a string, every input. And then we discussed how to convert the data type. That is what actually typecasting concept here. And then operators we discussed. Okay. So now, so we'll see again. So in the then again, see the conditional statements concept. But before that, in the variables, first we will discuss complete strings concept first. And then later we will go to the conditional statements. So today we will try to complete strings. And then some of the conditional statements we will try to complete. Okay. Tomorrow we'll complete the loops concept, and then pending conditional statements with some use cases we'll discuss. And also I'll share some assignments today. So if you have a time, then you can practice that later. Okay, so before that, any questions, anyone? So I'm writing here session 4, and then save as session 4 underscore script dot groovy I'm using here, and then save as type, all types, and then save. Okay, so coming back again, the variables here, where we discussed in the session 2. So I told there are a list of different types of variables. Now see here, these are the variable types. So in this actually, we already know like numbers how to define. Simply we can define a equal to some value, and then b equal to some value like that. there is no problem. But okay, now if you see, strings concept especially. So variables, what is the variable we know, but I'm just giving just now types of variables, even numbers also we know that. So we discussed how to define that. So just variable name equal to value, variable name equal to value, like that we discussed. But here now, instead of this all the things I can say, this is a simple, the variable name is scalar variable. See now, I just changed that. What is scalar? That we need to understand. See, the last session, what I told, I have explained separately number strings like that. But the complete, whatever you are writing, integer value or float value or string value or boolean value, it comes under scalar variable. So now we'll try to understand this. Okay, the first variable. So this is a scalar, and the second one is arrays, and the third one is map. Only these three variables we have in the Groovy. So arrays means, for example, sometimes people call like a list. List also arrays only. Or we call it as an indexed array. All are same. Map, or we call it as a hash map, or we call it as a dictionary, or we call it as a associative array. Associative array. See, there are different names, but concept is same. So sometimes if you check some documents, variables, like they say that map. So generally in Groovy we call it as a map. Every language having their own name. For example, the same thing if you are writing in Perl, we call it as a hash, but the concept is same. In Python, we call it as a dictionary. But overall, this name is associative again, associative array. So it's a key and value pair. We'll discuss that. Arrays means same like programming languages. Like whenever if you want to define multiple values, then we go for arrays. Okay, so first we will discuss the first variable now, only the first variable today. And then we will move to the conditional statements. Because this one we should know. So because I already told many times we use this variable. Even in the last sessions, whatever we discussed, only scalar variable we covered that. So what is scalar? It's a very simple. It holds only one value. Okay, remember this. It holds only one value. One value means it can be any value, but only one. So simply we can say that the value can be any data type. Now you need to understand it can be integer value, it can be a float value. We know float means how it is printing in the Groovy. I'm just giving a generic style float. That means long, double, it prints like that. Based on the value, it will print. Whenever if you're writing some float value, and it prints that based on the float style, double or long like that. So those types already we discussed. You can just go through this test1.groovy. So we already discussed this concept. So I told that there is a byte, short, long, float, double like this. So you can read this documentation later, then you'll understand what exactly the float value if you define. So what I told, it holds only one value. The value can be any data type. So it's an integer type, it can be a float type, it can be string type. But remember, it's not an array, it's not a map. The reason is what? Array means it can be a multiple values. Map means it's a key and value pair. But what exactly the scalar is? It holds only one value. So I'm talking about only one value now. So whenever if you are defining any one value to the variable, that variable we call it as a scalar in Groovy. So let's say for example a equal to 10. This is a scalar variable. And b equal to some value 3.5 scalar variable. C equal to Groovy single quotes scalar variable. D equal to Groovy double quotes scalar variable. So these are scalar. So in the scalar again, what it can be integer value, it can be a float value, it can be a string value. That's what I told. But this all as basically what one value. If you are defining one value, whatever the type it is. But if it is a one value, then this is actually what scalar. So actually we used this. Say now x equal to 100, int x equal to 100. This is a scalar. Is today's holiday true? This is a scalar. String message equal to hi Groovy. It's a scalar. But using with what? Data type. That means it's a static variable type. But now I'm just talking about the Groovy style. This is programming languages Java we use like this. But in Groovy style, you don't need to define the data type. We discussed all the types actually already. But again, I'm explaining that here the concept is I want to explain what exactly the string is and how to define that. So before that, we should know these all the concepts. Okay, now for example, let's say I'm just taking this all and then I'm printing it. So how to print println? So I'm just using now println here, println. Then I want to print this variable A. And then I want to print variable B, variable C, variable D. So you have to verify later, okay, what is the type of these variables also. That is your task. Whenever if I'm explaining something, you should also know that, more about that. That means you should verify what is the type and how to define with the data type, without data type. These are all the things you have to test. Then only you'll get idea. But I'm just giving now only how to define the variable here and then executing it. Now you can see the values output it will print here. So now it is giving error message somewhere actually session 4 underscore script dot groovy println. So what is the error? Tell me. Println T missing, right? So that is a syntax error. So that is why compilation time we got this error message. So we discussed compilation, then it will start execution line by line. But this is a compilation time error. Now what is the error again? So here
One more
see.
to use, Master.
So if we get more syntax errors, then we will get more hands-on generally. Because we understand, okay, there is some issue, then how to fix it. Okay, now see here 10, 3.5, then Groovy grew. Okay, now we already discussed this, like, how to get the type. So that is what I told many sessions, like the last sessions actually many times we discussed that variable name dot get class. So get class we are using it. So now you can simply use that get class. But we know it's a case sensitive. We should know that exactly the name, how to use it. Okay, I'm simply using for one variable now, and then I'm executing it. Okay, now I got a string. That is a string. Now, if I write that, so we should understand the coding rules. So strings concept, especially. Now, if you see in the strings, okay, in the strings, we have a single quoted string. We write like this, and then we have a double quoted string, double quoted string. double quotes with that. That's it, single quoted strings and then double quoted strings. So now we should understand here quoting rules. So when the problem comes, so what exactly it is, we should know. For example, let's say if I define one string, okay, the string simply I'm defining like this. So how to write multi-line comment? I want to comment this all the lines. So forward slash star and then star forward slash multi-line comment. Okay, str equal to, now you tell me this, str equal to, I'm simply writing I know Groovy and then println str. So what will be the output now? See what I define now, I just define one string, simple. And also I have to remember whenever if you are defining any string, the string length is infinite in Groovy. But when actually it will take the range, now if you observe here, if you are defining with the data type like byte, short, int, in the same documentation you can see if you are using byte type and then only 128 to minus 128 to 127, it will take that range. If you are using short, then minus 32,768 to 32,767, because the programming languages having some limitation. So this is again, if you are specifying a data type before defining a variable, then it follows this rule. This is the bound values. If you are writing int, then int a equal to some value, then you can only define this much number. You cannot write more than this. And then this will be a least value and this will be a higher value. But if you are not defining the data type, if you are directly defining it, Groovy says that length is infinite. But while writing the data type with variable name, and then this will be the length. So what I am doing now, I am not writing any data type. So you can write whatever actually the length, there is no problem, it accepts it. But if you specify something like a class name with a string, so this is a string, and then the length will be based on the string. So, but anyway, for string there is no specific, but generally I'm talking about if you take int or float or something long, there will be some limit. Okay, now I said that if you define one variable, any string variable, there is no limit. But okay, I just define only simple string, I know Groovy. And then if I print this, we will get the same output. There is no problem here. So I just define one string between a single quote and then I got the output. But when the problem comes, for example, simply I'm writing I don't know Python or I don't know Groovy. Whatever the string, I don't know Groovy. See, the last time I told I know Groovy, that is a string. Okay, if you want, I'll write one more, str1. I don't. Okay, so I don't know Groovy, I'm saying, then str1 I'm printing. So you tell me what will be the output now? What will be the output here? Any guess?
Both lines will be printed.
Both lines?
Will be printed.
Okay. So the first one, as it is like I know Groovy, And the second one, I don't know Groovy, like that, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. But the problem is here, if you observe the second variable, str1, I don't know Groovy. So if you see this variable str1, I don't know Groovy, there is a single quotes between single quote. Okay, so this is actually what? So this concept is again important. Single quotes I define and ends with one single quote. So whenever if you define starting with one single quote, ending with one single quote, okay, this is a string. There is no problem. It is required, it is mandatory. Either starts with single quote, ends with single quote, or starts with double quotes, ends with double quotes. Because then only it understand as a string. But okay, that is the rule, starting with quote and ending with quote. But if you observe the second one, the second variable, there is a starting with single quote, ending with the single quote, but there is one more single quote here. So if you define single quotes between single quote, ambiguity. Ambiguity means interpreter is getting confusion now. So interpreter is getting confusion. So what actually it will do? It will simply gives error message. See now. What error it is? It is a syntax error. You got my point? So this is a syntax error now. It is not executing even first line. The first line actually not having any syntax error, but still it is not executing. The reason, Groovy already provided syntaxes. We should follow that syntaxes, but I ignored that. So what I ignored? The quoting rules I ignored. So I got a syntax error here. Okay, so that means now we should understand these quoting rules. Quoting rules. I said ambiguity, which is nothing but confusion. Interpreter is getting confusion. So the quoting rules here, single quotes between single quote, not accept. Remember, not accept, no matter whatever language it is. The concept is same. Either in Groovy or in Perl or in Python, these all are same. Single quotes between single quotes, not accept. Double quotes between double quotes, not accept. Single quotes between single quotes, not accept. Double quotes between double quotes, not accept. Then how? Single quotes between double quotes, it accept. Double quotes between single quotes, it accept. See, double quotes between single quote is accepting. Same way, single quotes between double quotes also accepting. But let's say, for example, I want to accept as it is the single quotes between single quote. Yes, then there is a separator. So we use backslash is called separator. So what is the use of this separator? For example, if I want to accept single quotes between single quote, then yes, you can use it. Then it accepts. Double quotes between double quotes, then yes, you can use separator. Then it accepts. Okay. Now see, I am using that separator here, backslash. So where we have to use, always remember the first single quote, last single quote must. That is mandatory. Then only treat like a string. But in between, wherever if you see one more single quote or two more quotes, then you should use this. Now I'm trying to execute again. Now I check the output, what it will print. Now it is accepting. I know Groovy. I don't know Groovy. Okay, now I also told that str3, for example, I am writing double quotes and then I said, for example, like this I am writing. I said I don't know Groovy. See now, double quotes between single quotes I define now. And then I'm trying to print str3. str3. So double quotes between single quotes, it accepts. That is what we discussed. Now see, I said I don't know Groovy. It is printing. But when the problem comes again, for example, the same line, I'm writing str4 and then str4 here. Then again, I'm writing here one more double quotes and ends with one more double quotes. So my requirement, I want to take this I don't know Groovy as a separate string. But what we discussed, first quote, last quote must, but between the double quotes between double quotes is there. So syntax error. Quoting rules we should follow. So now see error. So what we should follow now, I said double quotes between double quotes, backslash. How many backslashes required here? Wherever, like starting quote, ending quote, ignore it. But between, wherever, if there is a double quotes, you should provide this backslash. Now, see, what is the use of this backslash? Basically, it is a separator, I said. That means the original behavior for this double quotes is what it's treating like a double quotes. But whenever if you are using backslash, it will treat like a, the double quotes, it treat like a normal text. Now it's not a double quotes, it's a text now. Now I can check output, it will just print as it is like a text. Now we have to observe the output. If you see, starting double quotes not printed, ending double quotes not printed, because that is required or that is mandatory to define a string. It won't print that quote. Only between that, whatever you define, it will display that data. But now what I did now for these double quotes, I used actually backslash separator. And then for these double quotes, I used actually what? Backslash. Now it is treating like a normal text. So it is printing this text. Double quotes also printing here. But what double quote? Inside the one, but not outside one. So outside one is different. We are using to define as a string. But inside one, we should avoid that. Means using with separator. Now one more example, the last example inside in this. Now I said single quotes between double quotes, it accepts. So now if we check here, I'm writing now single quotes. And then I'm writing double quotes here. I know Python, I know Groovy, whatever it is. Okay, so now I'll write like this. And then str5. Or else if you want to take one, okay, first let's execute this. Single quotes between double quotes, accepting. Also, I'm providing here one more. Now you can see it is printing as it is single quotes between double quotes, it is accept. So this is the way we define generally the strings, and between that strings, single quotes between single quote, double quotes between double quotes, what happens. Now, I said separator, right? So there are actually escaping special characters in Groovy. So we generally use multiple times this one, escaping characters. For example, I want to print something, tab space, we use a \t. Okay, so since I'm covering this backslash, I'm also explaining this now. So escaping special characters. Escaping special characters here. See, if you write T, that is a text. But if you write \t, then immediately the meaning will change. Okay, so this is called tab space general. Okay, I'm using something like this, n I'm using, and then \b I'm using. So what exactly it is, we will see now with example, so that you'll understand. Now you tell me that, okay, I'm going to write it, but you tell me what you understood with that, so that it will be very easy. So I'm printing now println welcome. So simply one string I'm printing. And also we know whenever if you are using one more line, one more println, this is already discussed. Every time println by default it will give you one new line. So welcome it will print, and the next line welcome it prints, because by default it is providing new line. Now I'm using println but welcome Groovy. So my requirement now, I want to print welcome in one line, Groovy in next line. I want to print welcome in one line, Groovy in next line. Then we use \n here. What is that \n, which is a new line? It will print welcome, then next line Groovy it will print. Now can see this. So wherever if you want to print new line, then we use this. So again, many times we will discuss this. You should know this concept. In the coming sessions, we are going to use multiple times this \n, \t, all the things. So you should know what exactly \n is, new line. And then I'm using the same thing again, but I'm going to use \t. Now, if you observe what is \t here, it will actually now \n means new line. It printed new line. \t means tab space. It is a tab space here. Between that there is a space. Okay, now again I'm using \b we discussed, and we do have \r. Now we check what exactly the output here. Now we check here. What is \b? What you understood? Check the output and tell me what you understood \b. What you understood that?
The before character has been deleted. Before character has been deleted. E has been removed.
Generally, it's a backspace. Means the backside one character it will remove. Backside one character it will remove. Well, but what is \r then? Okay, so \r, yeah, it will remove all the. This E is coming here. Now, for example, say, now if I'm giving something, okay, now for example, I'm going to give something, hi, Groovy. Now, if we check what exactly the output it is printing here. So basically what \r, basically it will remove the previous characters. Okay, again I'll write one more. So what is this output now? Groovy O it is printing. Now if you observe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters. So whenever if you are using \r, it is removing the 6 characters from there, and then remaining characters, it will move to the end of the string. Now, if you observe here, welcome, then backslash r groovy, WELCOM, it is deleting from there, and then remaining all the characters, it will actually move to the end of the string. That means groovy E, it is printing. But I just mentioned hi, then backslash r groovy. So since only 2 characters, it deleted that. Only groovy it is printing. But hi, hello, I mentioned. Now if you observe 2, 4, 6, 7 characters. So because of 7 characters, now only 6 characters it deleted, and last character it moved to the end of the string. But we never use this backslash r. Generally, we always use backslash and backslash t only. But since there is a backslash r, some purpose they use. So I just explained it what exactly the backslash r. But remember, backslash n for new line, and this is for tab space, this is for backspace. And mostly we use n and t only. Okay, so n for new line and t for tab space. So I hope this one clear now. So whenever if you want to print a new line, then we use it. Now I think you can see in the last session also, I explained that example. You can see here, I used backslash n multiple times for new line, backslash t for tab spaces. Then I printed menu, then n, then t, then star star like that. So there is a purpose, backslash n, backslash t. Many times we use like that. Okay, so anyway, it will come again in the conditional statements loops. We'll discuss again. Now again here, okay, in the strings, last concept is string methods. Okay, so I told that in Groovy everything is a one class. Everything is a one class means string is a class, int is a class, long is a class, float is a class, like this, double is a class. These all are classes. If you observe, that is why whenever if you are printing, you know, see now, for example, if I define some variable and then if I try to print the type, so this already we discussed here, but I'm just explaining again, okay, just to understand. So whenever if you are using get class, so why we are using get class? Because that is a class every time. The variable I defined Groovy and d dot get class. So the reason it's a one class. Whenever if you define any variable internally, it will take based on that value, you know, it will take what type of class it is, and then internally it will create an object. That's what we discussed. Now if you want to check it, then it will print, see now it's a class, but what is the class? It's a string class. So now two things, we have a functions concept and then we have a methods concept. So this we will cover in detail later, but you just try to understand what exactly the function and what exactly the method theoretically now. The reason I'm writing string methods, you should know what is the differences between normal function and method. Let's say for example, I'm using every time println. Println is a one function. You can directly use println of variable name. So println of variable name, that is a function. So for example, functions, you can directly call function of argument, we call it. So whatever the argument, example, we are using println and some variable name. For example, if we define a variable, this is called function. So function, you can directly call that. But why two different concepts, functions and method? That we need to know, right? Now you need to understand one more important concept here. There are some procedure oriented languages as well as object oriented languages. Let's see, for example, C language. C language is pure procedure-oriented language. Shell scripting is pure procedure-oriented language. Any procedure-oriented languages, like whether it is C language, programming language, or shell scripting language, we have only functions concept. There is no concept method. That means under procedure-oriented, we use functions. For example, Java language we have, which is a object-oriented language. .NET we have, C++ we have. There is no concept of function in C++, Java.NET. We have only methods. The reason is those are pure object-oriented languages. Every time we use a class statement to define any, any statement. For example, even if you want to print something, class is must. So now the same function, if you write inside the class statement, we call it as a method. Outside the class statement, we call it as a function. So C language, shell script, we have only functions, we don't have methods. The reason is it's a pure procedure oriented. C++, Java.NET, we have only methods, we don't have functions. The reason is only pure object oriented languages. But coming to the Groovy or coming to the Python, Perl, these scripting languages, it handles both procedure oriented as well as object oriented. So that is why we have here functions as well as methods. As administrator, generally we go with every time functions, but whenever if you are going with something like a developer style, and then we also create methods like using with object oriented. So I'm not covering here in this session, right? Object oriented, basically we have a concept, we will cover it, but we are actually understanding what is the differences. So in Groovy, we do have a functions, we do have a methods. So why now methods concept? We need to understand string is a class. Inside the string, whatever the function defined, we cannot call that as a function, that is a method. So what's the general difference is functions we define outside of the class. And then functions we can call directly with the function name. And then what we understood, with the function of some argument. Okay, now let's say I'll write this example here then. Now coming to the method, methods we define inside the class, inside of the class. Okay, and then methods we cannot call directly. Then what? If you want to call any method, one reference variable is required. That is generally we call it as a class reference variable, or we call it as object creation statement. So through that reference variable or object creation statement only, we can call the method. So simply here, I'm saying that methods we cannot call directly. One object reference statement is required. One object reference statement is required to call the method. Okay, this is a simple understanding. So now, what is this object reference statement here in the string level? It's a simple, the variable name itself. So the variable name itself object reference statement while defining the variable style. But later you will understand what exactly this all. So the syntax will be now not like function of arguments. This is the syntax here. But here syntax is, okay, so here syntax is variable name dot, okay, variable name dot method name of argument. This is the way we use. Okay, now we will see that string methods, and then you can understand that with this concept, we can compare what exactly the methods and how exactly we are using it. So there are some string built-in methods. These string built-in methods more important. We should remember this. So string built-in methods. So the string built-in methods, we use a length, one method. This is a method, and we use a substring, and we use index of, and we have a replace, and then see it's a case sensitive, so we should actually know generally how to use these methods whenever, if in case the case different, we should follow the same style. For example, we have a something called to lowercase, so we use to, and then L is capital letter, and then we write like this: L is capital, C is capital, to lowercase. And the same way we have a to uppercase, and then we have a reverse, and then we have split, which is more important concept, and then we do have join concept. Okay. So these are the methods. These are string methods. Okay, so now I said string methods. That means you should know that if I say anything related to string method, that is nothing but what inside the string class these are defined. Inside the string class these are defined. That is why we can only apply for the strings but not for any other variables. If you are writing one integer, you cannot use this. If you are writing some Boolean value, you cannot use this. This is only for strings because this all defined under string class. Okay, now what exactly it is now? Let's say, for example, I want to see one string length. So if you want to check one string length, you can use this length. Okay. So length we are using to get the total length of string. So it is used to get the total length of the string. For example, let's say, see now the syntax you should know. I told variable name dot method name. So for example, d equal to groovy. So what will be the syntax? Println d dot, this is the syntax, length. Okay, so I'm using d dot length here, and then if you check the output, it is printing now the total length of this string 6. So you can also write, for example, println, assume I want to write something like directly here groovy, and then dot. and then length. You can also use like this. See, means always it's best practice to define to the variable, and then from there print this, the method. But some cases, sometimes if you want to print directly, you can also use like this. What is that? Variable name dot length, or you can directly use string dot length. So whatever the string, Groovy, and then dot length, it will print what? The same. So this is the length one. Now for example, see, I want to print println, and can we write total length of D is, and then here comma separator D dot length. So okay, now see here, this is not actually possible like this with comma separator. So what generally we do, so we know that the concept we discussed, for example, okay, I want to get the total length, len equal to D dot length, you can use first, and then you can apply that D dot length here to len. I applied, and then I'm going to use $len. So if I use $len, what it will print now? So D dot length, which is actually the total string length, we assign to the variable len, and then I am printing from there the total length of the string 6. We can write like this. Okay. So this is the first method, which is a length method, but we understood how exactly we are using method. Okay. So give me 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes break will take, and then I'll continue. 2 minutes. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now, yeah. Sorry, my baby, some disturbance. So, fine. So now we understood actually what a length. Then what is substring? So any guess what is substring? Substring. That means
Yes. The string, the part
one
part
part.
of the string.
Yeah, one part of the string, we can say simply. Based on the name itself, we can simply understand that it's the one part of the string. Okay, so we can say it is one part of the string. For example, let's say I'm using here one string. I'm just taking Groovy, okay. And then I want to print, okay, now for example, if I'm printing here, println d dot and then substring of one I'm using. You know, I'm just using println d dot substring of one. So what exactly this one is now? If I execute, now see the output here. You know, whenever if you are using one, it will print from the first index. So generally, this is a 0. G means 0. Index number 0. 1 means R. O, V, Y. So what it is doing now, it is printing from the first index R and then all the characters. Now let's say for example, I am using substring 1, 3. I'm printing 1, 3 here. If I use 1, 3, always the last one it excludes. So whatever the range you are using, always the last one it excludes that. It will print from first index till the third index actually, but the last one it excludes. So means output will be 1 and 2. That means first index and second index. The meaning for this first index and second index. Now let's say for example, I'm just writing here 1, 5. So 1, 5 means what? It should actually start from first index. That is nothing but here R. And then it will print second index, third index, fourth index. That's it. So whenever if you are using some range like this, it will start from first index, whatever the specified first number here. And then it exclude the last one, including the first one, excluding the last one. So it will start from 1 to 5 here. Whatever the range you can provide it. Now, for example, if I write only the 2, so it will start from 2. And then it will print till that 4, like that. This is a substring. So if you want to take one partial string, then we use this. And also you can use for the variable, or you can also write directly one string, then you can apply directly also. For example, For example, I'm using println directly. I'm using, and then I have a something Groovy script, and then I'm using dot substr substring, and then 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now you can see it is just printing Groovy. So that is a substring. Substring of what? Groovy script. I'm printing only one string 0 to 6. That means it will print 0th index, first index, second index, third index, fourth index, and fifth index. Okay, now coming to the index of. Okay, now for example, see what we understood here actually. We can use the index number for any string generally, right? That is what we understood. So is there any way to access like here, for example? Okay, now for example, I'm defining this Groovy, and then println d of 0. Okay, now I'm just giving idea. Okay, is there any way to print like this? See, you can see the output here. Z is printing. Okay, now for example, I'm trying to print something -1. So what exactly generally -1 can we use that? Now you can see the -1 is nothing but y. So this is actually indexing concept. We'll discuss that indexing concept here after this. Okay, so because of this concept, I just explained that. We will discuss that now. But index of means what? For example, let's say I have a one string here, Groovy, but I want to see one specific character index number. I'm not aware what is the index number of that character, but the character is exist. So you can get the character's index number using with index. So it is used to get the index number of given character. Index number of given character. So how to get variable name dot index of what character? That is argument. So variable name dot index of, then argument you need to provide. Argument means the character, what character you want to see. For example, here we have a Groovy. I want to see the index number of y. If I want to see the index number of y, println d dot index of, then the character y here. So it will give you the index number of that specific character. So println Groovy. What is the error here? String so index of, there is no syntax, it is saying. I think it's a capital O. That's what I said, case sensitive, we should follow that. So many times we get confusion with this actually. I can see the index of this y 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it will print like. So it's a capital O actually. Case sensitive, we should follow that case. Okay. And then coming to the replace. What is replace here? So for example, I want to replace one particular portion of the string. Then you can replace that. For example, in the, okay, let's say, for example, I'm just taking one string here. str1 equal to A, B, C, D, E. This is a string. I want to replace CD with XY. So you can simply use println str1, str1 dot replace of, even you can replace one character or multiple characters also. I want to replace wherever CD matches. I want to replace with XY here. Variable name dot replace of source and target. Now if I run it, now you can see this, it will print AB and then CD replaced with XY and then E. So whenever if you want to replace something, some portion of the string, then you can use this replace method. Okay, so it is used to replace one portion of the string. So the syntax here, variable name dot replace of source and target you should provide. So what do you need to replace? With what? And then two lower, two upper is simple. So it will just convert the given string into lowercase, and this one is given string into uppercase. So it is used to convert the given string into lowercase. So for example, if you are giving it uppercase characters, then it will convert into lowercase. Or else, even if you have something like combination of lower and upper, it will always print in the lowercase only. So this is the str1, and then I am writing here capital A, B, C, D, E, F, and then I am writing println str1 dot. So what is the function name? To lowercase. I said we should actually follow what the case, whatever the case here, we should follow the same thing. So I'm using str1 dot to lowercase, capital L. Now if you observe here, it will print all the characters in lowercase. Let's say, for example, I want to assign this output to another variable. For example, let's say str2 equal to str1 dot to lowercase, and then println str2. str2 contains what? Capital letters. Now, so either you can directly display if you want, or you can also assign to the another variable, and then later you can check that output. Okay, str2 contains all the lower cases now, and then I want to write in str3 all uppercase. So how to write now? str2 dot to upper case, and then println str3. Now str3 contains all upper cases now. Select that. This is lower and upper case, and then coming to the reverse. Reverse means just it will print all the characters into reverse. So it is used to convert the given string into uppercase. So reverse, it will just print into reverse. Now for example, okay, let's see first example then. So I have a B, C, D, E, F, and then I want to print this string into reverse order. So you can simply use this println str1 dot and then reverse. So if I use reverse method, so these are methods, right? Now I can see the string, it is printing EDCBA, reverse order. Okay, so this is reverse order. Okay, now split and join more important. So we'll discuss split concept later. So because split generally, once if you split, it will go to the list format. Okay, I'll just give you idea, but later we will see use cases. Once if discussed list concept, it will be simple. Now, for example, str1 equal to, I'm writing Groovy script, and then println str1 dot split I am using. So I'm just using split method. Okay, in the string I just applied split method. If you apply split method, by default, remember by default, it will split based on the space. Space is the default delimiter in Groovy. Space is the default delimiter. So what is delimiter? Delimiter means it's a field separator. For example, space is a delimiter. Tab space is a delimiter. Comma is a delimiter. Colon is a delimiter. Semicolon is a delimiter. So based on this any delimiter, you can split the data. Is it only delimiter or can we provide any character? Of course you can provide, but if you want to get the meaningful data, then we should use delimiter. Now see, for example, I said that by default it will take space delimiter. Because based on the space it's splitted, now we got output Groovy and script, two different strings in the list format. This is a list now, array concept. So two values now. One value I split it into two values using with what? Delimiter space. That is a by default delimiter. So let's say, for example, in general, in Linux environment, we have a etc password file. Okay, etc password file contains all the user information, right? So /etc/password. The file contains all the user information. So this is the file name /etc/password. So all the users have information available here. All the users information available under etc password file in Linux. So what I want to do now, for example, I want to print one specific user details. Let's say user underscore info, and then I'm assigning the user info to one specific variable, one user information to one variable. So assume the username is John and then encrypted password. There will be 7 fields in general. So first field username, second field encrypted password, but how we know it's a field? Based on the colon. So colon is a delimiter in etc password file. And then user ID, and then group ID, and something GCOS information, for example, US, and the default home directory, and then default shell, for example, bin bash. So this is one particular user information. This is one particular user information. So the requirement will be, for example, I don't want to print entire user details. If you are using println user underscore info, this is a single string, right? So if you observe, I define here starting with double quotes, ending with double quotes. This is a single string. So because of it's a single string, you can directly print the entire thing. It just printed as a single string. Now it's a single string now. But now, is there any way to print only John? Maybe you think substring we can use. But the problem is substring. If you know exactly the username is 4 characters, okay, then you can apply. Let's say, for example, I'm reading from the file and assigning to the user info every time one value. So now this username is John. The next user will be John Keats. Then after that, some username will be Bob. And then after that, some username will be some other. So we cannot predict based on substring to print the username. The reason is what? It will be a different users and then name will be different length. So that is why substring is not possible here. Then what it is possible? The reason what I want to do, I want to print only username. I don't want the complete user details. I want to print only username. So we have to split. There is no option. How to split? Based on the colon. Colon is a delimiter. Now let's say, for example, I'm just taking another variable info1 equal to user underscore info. This is a string. Dot split based on what? Based on the colon. See, if you're not providing any delimiter, I told that by default delimiter is space. But if you want to split based on some specific delimiter, then the delimiter we should provide there. I'm using println info1. So wherever if there is a delimiter colon, based on that colon now it will split and it assigns to the array. Now this is an array here. So we have a 7 values separately. John is the first value, second value, X, third value, fourth value, fifth value, sixth value, seventh. Now what I want to do, what is actually requirement? I want to print only John. So now once if you split it to the list, you can apply index number. So print info1 of index number 0. What is the 0? 0 is a username. Now I can check here. It will just print John. So this is what we use, but that's what I told that if you want to understand the split concept in detail, so first thing we should know the list and also we should know what is delimiter and also we should know that indexing concept is all. So that is why I told that again we will see it, but just I explain simple way where exactly we are using this split concept. I hope this one understood, right? So because see many times we use split. This is very much important in any language. If you want to split based on some specific delimiter or specific character or specific something I want to take and I want to split it, then we use the method called split. Okay. So split and join I'll discuss again once the array concept is completed. Okay, remember this string two methods, split and join. Anyway, split I just explained it, but we will see some more use cases and then you'll understand it. Then join also. Join means basically if you have a list of strings, then how to join as a single string. That is a use case. We will see that. Okay, now indexing concept. Indexing is not a method, but I'm just writing indexing means how we can access the data from the string. So here we have to understand we can access any characters from the string using with index. Okay, now index generally starts with 0. Index starts with 0. So means you can actually use based on the indexes or reverse indexes concept also. We have reverse index. So indexes starts with 0 and reverse indexes starts with -1. Index starts with 0 and reverse index what starts with -1 here. So now, for example, I just want to print one specific character from the string. Okay, let me comment this multi-line comments. So what is two forward slashes? It's a single line comment. I commented this line actually. Now str1 equal to groovy, either single quote or double quotes. The string you can define like this, anything is fine. I'm trying to access now println str1 of, for example, let's say 15 I'm using. So what is this meaning now? I'm trying to access 15th index. See, this is not 15th character, 15th index. So 15th index means what? The index number, it starts with 0, but it is actually what I am trying to access the 15th character. Means 15th index, sorry. That means 16th character. Okay, now if I use here, is 15th index is there now? No. Then what is this? This is a runtime error. So what it is saying now, java.long.string out of bound exceptions begin 15 and 16, length only 6, it is saying. It is trying to get the 15th and then ending with 16. Internally it is understanding like that, only one index I specified. But it is saying length only 6, but why you are accessing this index number? So this is a runtime error. Let's say, for example, I am using println and something I started like this, but not closed. Again, I am executing this. If you observe, why it is not concentrating that, str1 of 15 and not saying that, the length is 6, the old error message. It is saying, why it is saying like there is error. See, you have to understand this. This is a compilation error, right? So compilation error, that's what we discussed in starting. Whenever if you are executing Groovy code, first Groovy interpreter, it will go and check all the lines syntax errors. If there is no syntax error, then only it will start execution. So since there is a syntax error, at the time of compilation itself, we got this error message and saying one error. This is called syntax error. Now I'm closing this, and then it actually want to verify all the syntax errors since no errors. Now if I run it, then we will get a runtime error. This is called runtime error now. So basically runtime errors, you won't get like there is a one error, something like that. You will get directly like, with the Java library. But syntax errors, we can see this some error, what exactly error is, and then you can see like this cap symbol. So based on that, we can understand. So somewhat Groovy, the errors difficult only. It's not that much easy style to understand. So Python, if you see, it is very simple. It will provide you exact what the problem is, what is the error. It won't provide like that because it is depending on what Java. That is the problem. It is always depending on Java library, and based on that, it prints. Okay, fine. So now, what I'm trying to explain here, whenever if you are trying to access any index number, the first step, we should know the total length of the string. So what is the total length of the string here? That we should know. So once if you know the total length of the string, then it will be very easy. Now, okay, how to get the total length? Just a minute. Okay, so how to get the total length? That is what the methods we discussed, no? So length we discussed already, not word count, length. See, word count -l, which is something related to OS command. While working with strings, we use only string methods. You got my point? So length, why we discussed, that is the reason. Length is a built-in method to get the total length. So this is mandatory whenever if you are accessing any specific characters from the string. First thing what we need to do, we need to get the total length first. So once if you know the total length, then length, for example, if it is a 10, indexes we can use only 0 to 9. If length is 5, indexes we can use 0 to 4. So now I'm getting here len equal to str1 dot length. This is the method, and then you can see the println. So the total length of str1 $len. So if the total length is something, for example here 6, indexes we can use 0 to 5. Now I'm using the index number str1 of 0. What it will print? It will print Groovy. Sorry, it will print only Z. Okay, so it is simple. Whenever if you are using indexes and reverse indexes, so this concept again it will repeat in the arrays concept. So I'm explaining here. For example, this is the string Groovy G, and then we have a R here, and then O, and then again one more O here, and then V, and then Y. Okay, so this is V, and then Y here. So this is complete string. So if you want to access any one specific characters from this, so first thing we should know that index number. Now I'm using index number here is 0, and this is 1 here, and this is 2, and this one is 3. Okay, 3, and then this one is 4, and then this one is 5. A reverse indexing concept. See, indexing always left to right. Indexing always left to right in the string, this way. Reverse indexing always right to left. So that means this is a -1 index. You can use -1 also. Reverse index is -2. This one is -3, and then -4, -5, -6. So -4, and then -5, and then finally -6. So now, for example, if I want to access one particular character V, you can use index number 4, or you can use index number -2. Anything is fine. You got my point? You can use index number 4, or you can use reverse index -2 also. So basically, see, generally, for example, I want to get immediately last character, but I don't want to see the length of this string. That is fine, because you don't need to get the length. If you want to access the last character, simply you can use -1. -1, what it will do, it will refer only last character always. You don't need to get the length of that string. But if you want to use based on the index number, the regular index number, then first we should know the length. Then based on that, you can print that last character. But what I'm trying to say here, you can simply use -1 if you want to print last character directly. Okay, so this is indexing here. Now, let's say, for example, I want to print last character here. So println str1 of -1. Now again see the last character it prints y. So I want to print v. I said two ways you can print. Either you can use -2 or you can use index number 4. So since we know the length is actually 6 here, indexes you can use 0 to 5. So the fourth index is v here. You got my point now? Any questions in this?
No, Babu, it's clear.
Yeah, so it's a string itself. How many concepts we have? So that's what we have to understand each and everything while working with some specific variable. Then it will be easy, like complete things once if you understand, then it will be easy. Okay. Now,
Sorry, Babu, can we wind up today?
yeah, sure, Shaul, no problem. So it's up to you if you want to continue or else we'll. Anyway, string concept I completed now. So we will see then conditional statements in the coming session. Is that fine?
Yeah, sure.
So only one thing we will see now. For example, see, okay, let me write one more example here. So println str1 of, for example, 0, I am using dot 4. Okay. So whether it works or not, we'll see that. You can check here what is dot dot. Dot dot is a range operator. So we can say this is a slicing. Slicing means what? I want to print from 0th character to, that means 0th index to 4th index. So if you want to print 0th index to 4th index, then you can use dot dot. So dot dot is a range operator. It will start from 0 and it ends here 4th index. Now you can see GROOV. You can apply whatever the range you want, like this. This is, we generally call it as a slicing. Slicing is nothing but one part of the string. Okay, here dot dot range operator is dot dot. So whenever if you want to use range, then we can apply this dot dot operator. You can also apply the other way also. For example, println str1 of 4 dot dot 0. Now see the output what it prints. You just try this dot dot operator later. You see that outputs. Now see, it is just opposite. 4 dot dot 0 means fourth to 0 I want to print. You can also use reverse. It will print that. So that flexibility we have here. You can also apply reverse method directly without using reverse. I'm just using directly. You got my point, right? So this is indexing again. So I hope this one clear now. Range how to get, which is actually slicing one part of the string. Dot dot operator we use. So with this, I completed all the strings concept. So any questions now? Okay, if no, then we'll wind up then. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock sharp, we'll meet and we'll see the conditional statements. Okay. Yeah. So tomorrow
Thank you,
maybe
Babu.
link will change. I will share the new link. So then you can follow that new link.
Okay.
Thank you. Then. Have a nice day.
Sure.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you.